Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and thank you for having me. That's what I was trying to say. Can everybody hear me okay? Nice and clear? I'm not blasting anybody's ears? Okay, excellent. Thank you. The topic tonight is manifesting. Mastering manifesting. I want to start by being really transparent about something. My story is not a rags to riches story. I grew up in an upper middle class family. Both my parents worked. My father was the publisher of the Gazette newspaper in Montreal. We lived in Westmount. All of our needs were met. Food on the table, nice schools. We had a little cottage in the Laurentians, good food, good friends. This is not a rags to riches story. What this is, though, is a journey of self-discovery and self-empowerment around abundance, allowing, deserving, moving out of money wounding and money shame into a sense of money wisdom, a relationship with the abundance that is all around us, and a knowing, a deep, deep knowing that I've cultivated, that I've developed through my journey of understanding how there is enough, more than enough, and that what gets in the way of us experiencing what it's like to have enough or more than enough is usually us. And even though we live in a very affluent country, and we live in a very affluent society, and for most of us, all of our needs are exceeded, even if we do have a rags to riches story, we still have money wounds. We still have relationship problems with our money. We still have money stories that might be keeping us from fully realizing and actualizing what is possible for us. And it's different for everybody. I don't own a yacht. I don't want a yacht. I don't own a big house or a big mansion in Rockland. I don't want to. My idea of abundance is knowing that all of my needs are met, that I can look after my children, that I can give them the best that I can, that I can live in a nice neighborhood that feels safe, and that I can enjoy my life by getting on the ferry boat and heading over to Main Island and hanging out at my cottage. I don't live an extravagant life. I don't want to, and I don't need to. But that doesn't mean that anybody else can't. You can live whatever life you want to live, however you want to live it. Do you believe me? Okay. Over the last 10 years, after I stepped out of my 23-year marriage, I have learned how to step into a true abundance as it fits into my life and my expectations and as I understand it. And I want to share that with you tonight. That's what these 8 power steps of becoming a master manifester are all about. Do you remember in the 1980s when there was that positive talk movement? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people love me. Remember Saturday Night Live? Right? And do you remember how it kind of fell short for a lot of people? It didn't really work. That no matter how many times you looked at yourself in the mirror and said, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm successful, somehow it didn't quite manifest for a lot of people. The same thing is happening in the manifesting movement. How many people have read The Law of Attraction? Okay, and The Secret? And all the other books that are on the market? Someone's making a lot of money writing these books, trying to show you how you can be as rich as they are. And it's good reading, and there's lots of value in it. But what I keep hearing time and time again from my clients is, how come it's not working for me? I've read every book. I've done every practice. Chicken Soup of the Soul, I've got every copy. What am I doing wrong? And as I started my journey into self-sufficiency, self-reliance, financial independence, I had the same question. Because what I had been telling myself, the story that I had been telling myself, is that everybody else has it, but me. And remember, I told you this is not a rags to riches story. I didn't grow up with money trauma. However, I grew up with parents who were really, really bad with money. Like really bad with money. The belief that I grew up with in my household was, money comes, money goes. You have it, you don't have it. We don't really get to have it. My father, in the 80s, was earning $200,000 a year. That's a hell of a lot of money right now. That would be awesome. As publisher of the Gazette, and then when he went to work for Southam's, this was his salary. But nothing changed in our household, even though that was his salary, because everything that came in was gone. I don't know what he spent it on. And I didn't need anything more than what I already had, but it wasn't there. And when my parents separated and divorced, it wasn't there. It was gone. And that was my modeling. So when I left high school, after having gone through this experience, I wanted to do it differently. I didn't want to have a relationship with money where I didn't know where it was going on Saturday night, and I didn't know what time it was going to be coming home at, and I didn't know what it was spending itself on. I wanted to have a relationship with money where it felt like I was an equal partner in the financial landscape that I was creating. One of the things that I promised myself when I left high school, actually there were 3 things I promised myself. One was to learn how to fly. That hasn't happened yet. I want to wait till my kids are older. 2 was to learn how to sing, and I did that in my 40s. That's a great story. Maybe I'll tell it to you later. And 3 was to get over my fear of numbers and money. And to understand what it feels like to ask and then to receive in a really conscientious and intentional way. The way that I got over my money and my number fears was to start working for the bank, actually. I decided that somebody should pay me to learn how to work with money and how to work with numbers. I have a math wound. I'm not going to go into that either. Just know that my dad used to make me sit on my hands so I couldn't count on my fingers when he was trying to teach me math. But working for the bank allowed me to remove myself from some of that doubt and conflict that I had around my intelligence and my ability to understand math and numbers. And it also helped me understand money and how money works and why money works. With that background, once I left my marriage and had to make my own way and earn my own money, I was able to see where the disconnect had been all along. You know, when you come into a relationship and you come in with your life experience and they come in with their life experience, and they come in with their beliefs and you come in with your beliefs, and ideally and hopefully those beliefs mingle and those life experiences support each other. How many of us on the first date have had a conversation about finances and what your money philosophy is and how much you have in the bank and what you spend your money on? It's not something we talk about. We talk about sex with complete strangers more readily than we're prepared to talk about our money. When I talk about money wounds and money stories, this is where it's coming from. This family of origin, this cultural background, and the relationship with money and earning and finances. I'm leading into the first step of mastering manifesting. and why it is that positive thinking didn't work for a lot of people, and why it is that manifesting isn't working for a lot of people. You have to do your work on recognizing and understanding what your relationship with money is. You need to go into the stories that you're holding to be true for you about money and abundance and having, that you were brought up with. How many people, if you're brave enough to say, grew up in a poverty consciousness household? All right, where money doesn't grow on trees, you've got to work hard for your money, the rich get rich, the poor get poorer. How about a wealth conscious family? There's lots to go around, work hard and you'll earn your money. I think that more of us in our culture grow up with a sense of money's hard to come by than we do with a sense of money flows and it flows to us and it's easy to have and we can hold on to it and we deserve it. Would you agree? I mean, you don't have to agree, but I'm just curious what the sense in the room is. So when I talk about healing your money wounds, this is what I'm talking about. Looking at the things you tell yourself about money and then questioning them. Looking at how you feel, for example, about giving money as a gift or receiving money as a gift. In some families, in some circles, it's crass to give money as a gift, right? It shows that you haven't really thought about what the person wants. You haven't gone out and taken the time to buy them a gift. And so, money, that's just not something you give as a gift. My first marriage, my first wedding, we put out a wishing well. All we wanted was money for gifts. We'd been together for 7 years, however long it was. We didn't need anything. We already had set up a house together. We really just wanted money so we could pay our debts off and maybe go on a holiday. So we put out a wishing well in the reception room in the hope that people would, like you do in a wishing well, you throw in a penny and you make a wish. We were hoping they would throw in $20 bills. Most people instead wrote their wishes down on a piece of paper and threw their wish into the wishing well. Somebody wished for a pony, somebody wished for time travel, and I think we got about $5 in coin out of it. Kind of fell flat. Now, it was fun that they got to do that, but it also got me thinking about how we do this exchange with money and what it means to us and the value that we place on it and how we allow it to flow towards us. So looking at your story, and then what do you do with that story once you understand what it is? And quite often what you're telling yourself about your financial landscape, you're not even conscious that you're repeating that story to yourself. Because it's way down here. It's down in your root chakra, which is your chakra for foundation and structure and family and early dynamic. It sits here in your sacral chakra, which is all about money, creativity, sexuality. And it often sits right here in your solar plexus, your relationship center. Has anyone had the feeling, and you don't have to put your hand up, you can just nod, but has anyone ever had the feeling of not paying your bill? Missing that Visa payment? Not being able to actually pay for hydro? Or worrying about where rent's going to come from? That's right here in your relationship center, in your relationship with yourself. But the beautiful thing is that we can clear this. Once you are able to identify what your wounding is and recognize it, not from a place of self-judgment, not from a place of blame. We're not blaming our parents for how they dealt with money or whether they taught us about how to be financially responsible or not. We just want to observe it and acknowledge and see that it's there. And even if you don't have any money wounds, some of you might not, how beautiful would that be? Even if you don't, and even if now you have a beautiful relationship with your money and your finances, and you know what's in your bank account, and you love earning money, and you love giving money away or whatever you do with your money, even if you're in a really great relationship with your money, there's likely still something from back then, whether it's your family or the family before yours, that still could be cleared, if not for yourself, then for the benefit of the people around you. Because this kind of healing work has a ripple effect. The better you are in your relationship with your money, there's a ripple effect for the people around you. So do the work for them, if not for yourself. But as we move into the second work, we want to start, or the second step, we want to start looking at what these core beliefs are. So we've identified that there are these wounds. We've identified what the story is. Now we want to go down deep into the limiting beliefs that we're holding to be true about what that story is and what we think it says about us. So we're actually moving out of the realm of finances and money and numbers, and we're moving into our core limiting beliefs. Now you have two sets of beliefs. You have core limiting beliefs and you have core limitless beliefs. And the core limitless beliefs are the ones that are up on the surface. You say them with ease. I'm a great ping pong ball player. I'm an awesome artist. I love walking my dog. These are the things that you say that you know to be true and that are limitless. They raise you up. The limiting beliefs are the ones that you say in that little quiet voice in the back of your head, that you look for demonstration of, right? You get that Visa bill and you go, I gotta pay it. I haven't paid it. Oh, I'm not good with money. Who has an I'm not good with money story in here? Just out of curiosity. I used to have an I'm not good with money story. I'm much better now. When I had the I'm not good with money story and I started to do my work around that, I had to go below the I'm not good with money part to find out what it was telling me or what I was believing about that. So I'm not good with money. I'm not good with numbers. I'm not smart about money. I don't know how to look after myself. And you take that core belief down, down, down until you find its absolute source. The belief that is holding up the whole deck of cards. And in this case, because we're talking about manifesting, that's the theme that you want to be looking for as you move through into that core limiting belief. What do you believe it says about you? What is the belief that is showing up in all of your interactions around finances and money and abundance and manifesting? What do you believe ultimately is the truth? I don't deserve, I'm not good enough, everybody else but me, people like me don't get to have this, whatever it is, whatever that core limiting belief is. It can be an uncomfortable experience to first of all acknowledge that there is a money wound or a money story that needs healing. Going deep into those core limiting beliefs to identify what that is, and then saying it to yourself out loud. That can be a really uncomfortable process. But the good news is there's a place to go with that. It's a really simple process. Once you know what that core limiting belief is, you ask this question: is it true? Because the assumption that you've been working with is that it is true, right? But the moment that you ask, is this true, you have the opportunity to play with the possibility that it isn't true. That actually you do deserve. You are good enough. You do understand money. It's really just addition and subtraction. I figured that out. It took me a long time, though. It wasn't until I was at the bank that I figured that one out. You start to disassemble the belief system, the structure that you've created for yourself unconsciously from everything that you've absorbed and picked up from family, friends, culture. And it's such a liberating experience when you get to the point in that conversation with yourself when you realize and can say, it's not true. It's not true. Can you feel that? That something you've believed about yourself that has been such a weight and an anchor around you that has kept you stuck and not moving forward in your life isn't true? That you can be done with it? You can just release it? You can say, I don't need it anymore? And it can be that simple. It can be that quick. I've watched clients do this, where we go in and we go in and we go deeper and we go deeper, and bam, they hit that core belief. I had one client we did this with, and we could feel as we were going through the layers that we weren't quite there yet. We weren't quite there yet because she was still up here in her head. And then we hit it. She looked at me and she said, I was a mistake. That's what I believe. I believe I was a mistake. And then she burst into tears because she was so relieved to be able to find that belief that had been holding everything else up, including her relationship with her money and her finances, because she always thought she kept doing everything wrong. And when I said to her, is it true? She said, no, it's not true. And no word of a lie, everything changed for her after that. This is how powerful this work can be when you are willing, able, and ready to step into doing that piece of the work. And can you see how connecting to that story and releasing it can clear a path towards positive thinking and manifesting? Because now you've gotten out of the way. You've identified your block, you've acknowledged it, you've loved it up, you've asked it if it's true, you've learned that it isn't, and now it's not there anymore. It doesn't have a charge. So next time when you look in the mirror and say, I'm successful and I'm beautiful enough and everything's coming to me, and you read The Secret again, you might be a little more open to the possibility of that flow coming towards you. So that takes us into step number 3. I love this word. This is one of my favorite words in the whole wide world. Possibility. What is possible for you? What do you believe is impossible for you? And what do you believe is possible for you? Play with me for a moment. Go into your knowing of yourself. What do you think is impossible for you? Would anybody want to shout it out? What's impossible? What have you convinced yourself? Being a rock star. It's impossible. This beautiful woman is never going to be a rock star. Somebody else. Firefighter? Okay. Pamela's never going to be a firefighter. Not with that attitude. A lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight, you already know. What I'm doing is putting it into a system that you can then use to go through the steps that gets you to that final point of mastering manifesting. So I know that in the room you understand possible and impossible. Of course we do. But bring it to yourself. Get really honest with yourself about what you believe is impossible and what you believe to be possible. So what's something that is possible for you? What is possible for you?
My beachfront mansion with a swimming pool.
Nice. Beachfront mansion with a swimming pool. Do you get it by being a rock star? Maybe. I've always joked that once everybody in the world is healed and we don't need any more healers, I'm going to pursue my next career dream, which is to become an astronaut. Now, I might be a little old to join the NASA program, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it's possible, right? Maybe it's possible. What if you were to get really curious about how to make something you think is impossible possible? What if instead of saying, I can't do it, you say, I wonder how I can do it. I wonder how I can have that beautiful house on the beach. I wonder how I could go into space. Maybe I don't end up being an astronaut, but maybe I get to fly on the next Virgin flight that goes up there. Right? As soon as you start to get curious about what's possible for you, this whole world of imagination opens up. And it becomes possible for the ideas and the solutions to come to you as to how it is that you're going to be able to do this thing. Part of what happens when you move into possibility as well is you start to get really clear as to what is actually your desire and what might be somebody else's desire. For example, it was always my mother's desire to be a model. She was beautiful enough, she absolutely could have been a model. However, her father wasn't so keen on the idea. And when she was in modeling school and they had to do the lingerie shoot, he refused to buy her fancy underwear. And that was it, shut down her modeling career. So guess who she lived vicariously through when I was 16? Just take a guess. I'm just going to give it away there. She sent me to modeling school. She sent me to acting school. She kept telling me what a great career it would be for me. She wanted me to be a model. And okay, I was 16 years old. I mean, I was vaguely interested in the idea, but I really actually wasn't. It wasn't my dream to be a model. My dream was to be actually the first female Dalai Lama of Tibet. It was also to be the first female baseball player for the Expos. Now, although one might think that's impossible, I did end up coaching Little League softball and was the first female Little League coach in Victoria, in our league. So I might not have been working or playing for the Expos, but then the Expos were gone by then anyway. So I did the next best thing, and I taught softball instead. I'm still working on the Dalai Lama part. We're not quite there yet. But still, if you know truly what your desire is, or your desires are, isn't it easier to see how it's possible? To let them happen? To ask for the guidance, to ask for the wisdom, to say, I'm ready and willing to see if I could do this? And what if it doesn't have to look exactly like what you always thought it could look like my baseball story? What if it fulfills itself in some other way that you allow the possibility of that new way of flowing? So looking at what is possible for you and looking at what is impossible for you. I want to talk about a few words that we use that often get in the way of us knowing what we want and pursuing it. They include I should, I can't, I never, I don't. They also include just and maybe and might, not as in mighty might, but more as in I might. Listen to these two sentences. I think I just might go to Thrifty's and get some dinner. I'm going to go to Thrifty's and get some dinner. Two very similar sentences, but how different does that feel? You know, I wish I could have a mansion on the beach. That would be great. Just would be wonderful. I'm going to have a mansion on the beach. You take out what I call the wishy-washy words in your everyday sentences. Not just about whether or not you're going to go to Thrifty's or become the next Dalai Lama, in all your sentences. And I still catch myself. Everyone's like, I think I should. No, wait. I'm going to. Like, we do it all the time. It's part of our vernacular. But the more conscious and aware you are of how often you are negating your intention with the way in which you're speaking, the easier it is to change up how you're speaking so that what you say is actually in alignment with what your desire is. And it could be great big desires like going to the moon, and it can be everyday desires like going to Thrifty's. There's another wonderful little tiny word that I want you to play with. It's 3 letters. Yet. I haven't gone to the moon yet. I haven't climbed the mountain yet. I haven't traveled the world yet. Actually, just until the day before yesterday, I had no desire to travel the world. And then I woke up from this dream in which I was traveling the world, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. I guess now I want to travel the world. Yet can be such a powerful little word to change the I can't, I won't, I never to a possibility. Recognizing that just because in this moment you're not sure what's possible, doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen if you're willing to open it up to that possibility. Yet. So start practicing that. Go into some of the things that you're telling yourself are never going to happen and add the word yet to the end of the sentence and see what that feels like. It changes the vibration of your entire intention. And if you've read The Secret or The Law of Attraction, or even Bruce Lipton, and the intention experiment, then you know how much work is being done right now to understand the impact that our thoughts and our words have on our experience of our lives. So think about that impossible dream from a point of curiosity. After you've done your wounding clearing of any of those lack wounds or money wounds that you have, and move into the curiosity of how. Instead of how not, how can I? Instead of I can't, how can I? Instead of I shouldn't, how about I could? I could. I don't have to, but I could. And as soon as you put that word in, could, it's another one of my favorite words, you have choice, right? You can choose what it is that you want to do with your life. You can choose what you're going to buy at Thrifty's. You can choose to imagine what is possible for you. Once you have a clear idea of how to move into the choosing of it, you can start to work with your possibility path. Has anybody heard of this before? You've heard of life path, right? Okay, well, a possibility path is one of many paths that you have on your life path. And I would love to take you through a visualization to help you clear your possibility path. How does that sound? Okay. Awesome. So put your papers down if you have them. Take a sip of water if you need to. Get comfy in your chairs. So you know how we've done a little bit of work around what's possible for you. And I'm hoping that you've started to identify some of your desires and goals and dreams. If you haven't yet, bring one in. Just one. It can be as simple as you want it to be. It can be as elaborate as you want it to be. Okay? I want you to connect to and identify that goal, that vision, or that desire that has yet to manifest in your life. You don't have it yet. It hasn't happened yet. Now, as you connect with this image of this goal, this desire, this dream, I invite you to take in 3 deep breaths and exhale. And just let your body go heavy in your chair. Let your body relax. Let your shoulders relax. Deep breath in and exhale. Even more. One more deep breath in. And on this exhale, all doubt and worry moves out of your body on the exhale. And as you feel all and any tension, anxiety, or pain leave your body on each exhale, I want you to place your goal, your vision, or your desire in front of your mind's eye. That's in front of your third eye. Okay? Put it right there in front. This is your seat of intuition. This is where you learn how to make wise choices for yourself, in that third eye energy. So hold that desire in your third eye. Now, I want you to imagine that that goal and that desire is moving away from your third eye as far as it needs to go, but where you can still see it. Might be 3 feet away from you, it might be 2 miles away from you. You can still see it, but it's really, really small. It's really, really far away. Now, I invite you to look down at your feet with your mind's eye again and see that you're standing on a path. And paint that path in whatever way it shows up for you. Just either see it, feel it, paint it in. Cobblestones, sand, dirt. You're standing on your purpose path. And at the end of your purpose path is this goal or desire that you've created, that you want, all the way down along that path. Now, as you look down that path, what do you see on the path that stands between you and that goal and that desire? What shows up? in the way of doubts, shoulds, expectations, yes buts. Pay attention to what thoughts come to you and what you see, feel, and sense, etc. Just let it all come in for you. And notice if your path is cluttered with reasons why you can't get to this goal, or if it's clear. What thoughts, beliefs, and past experiences might be getting in the way and showing up on this path? Allow your imagination and your intuition to show you. Now, once you have a clear picture of what's in your way, I want you to imagine that in your hand there is suddenly a broom. A big, beautiful broom. And I want you to take that broom and walk down the path and sweep aside all and any clutter that's getting in the way of you reaching your goal. And be really vigorous about this. This is a spring cleaning like you've never done before. You are pushing all of it out of the way and off the path so that the path is clear between you and your goal. And when you are very clear that nothing is standing between you and your goal, your vision, or your desire, reach towards it and fully embrace it into your being. Now, on the count of 3, just allow the visualization to fade away. On the count of 2, open your eyes or look up, connect with the room and the people around you. And on the count of 1, come fully back into your body. Now, before you do anything, even say anything to yourself, I want you to ask your higher self, what is one thing that you can do, one action that you can take in the next 48 hours that will get you closer to that vision and that dream? Pay attention to the first thing that comes into your mind. If you've got your notebook and you want to write it down, you do. Otherwise, file it away. And then I encourage you to take that action in the next 48 hours, regardless of any of the clutter that might show up when you go to take that action. Okay? Does it feel like you can get to that goal now? Okay. And at any time, if it feels like you're getting bogged down in, I just can't get there, I can't follow that action, then sit back down and imagine that clear purpose path. And take out your broom and do the work you need to do to clear away those things that are in your way. Because most of the things that get in your way are simply excuses that you have created as a way of keeping yourself in your comfort zone of what you know is true and safe for you. You know when the desire or the goal is something that you need to engage in because you feel it right here in your solar plexus and it feels like it's pulling you forward, right? It feels like it's bigger than you. You can't get it out of your head. It keeps showing up in one way or another. Then please, for goodness sakes, pay attention to it and ask the question of yourself, how do I get there? What do I need to do? What action do I need to take in order to get myself on that path clear to my goal and my desire? Has anyone had the experience of reaching a goal and a desire in your lifetime, setting something in place and then watching and experiencing as things start to flow? And you really do feel like there's some divine intervention in the people that you meet and the conversations that you have and the opportunities that show up, and you're saying yes to all of it and it feels really, really good? What if that could be your experience all the time? Right? What if when the idea lands for you, the first thought that comes into your mind is, okay, how? Let's find out how we can do this. Instead of, ooh, there's all these reasons why we can't do this. It's too much money, I don't have enough time, what will my parents think, what will my children think, what will my friends think? No, I can't do it. What if you just said yes and see what happens? See what flows. keeping that purpose path nice and clear. So we've talked about becoming aware of our words, right? We've talked a little bit about those wishy-washy words. We've talked about the can'ts and the shouldn'ts and the don'ts. The fourth step is to move into becoming really aware of what you're thinking, how you're telling your story, the words that you're using. You've heard of high vibration words and low vibration words? So a high vibration word is a word that literally vibrates at a higher frequency, and generally are uplifting words when we say them or when we think of them. And low vibration words do the opposite. So dumb would be a low vibration word. Can't is a low vibration word. Hard is a low vibration word. But challenge, that's actually a high vibration word. Because what do you do with a challenge? Right? You face it. You overcome it. It's an obstacle, but it's one that you know that you can work with. It's a challenge. It's kind of exciting. But if something is hard, it's just hard, right? It doesn't go anywhere. The more mindful you are of all the words that you're speaking, as you tell your story about what's possible for you, the easier it is to see how you are actually creating the blocks yourself by the words you're using, which support the beliefs that you are operating under. And if these beliefs are core self-limiting beliefs, you really want to get rid of those. Whoa, pardon me. You want to make sure that you've cleared those out of your energy system because they're not serving you any longer. Unless they are. And sometimes the reason that we feel stuck, that it feels like we can't move into that dream or that desire, is because for whatever reason, we still need to hold on to the limiting core beliefs and those beliefs that aren't letting us go forward. Maybe it's safer that way. Maybe we're still operating under our parents' beliefs and we just don't know it yet. I don't want any of these beliefs to be bad or wrong, because they're not. They're all part of your experience and they're all part of your story. What we want to do is acknowledge them, say thank you so much for showing up and keeping me in this stuck place all this time, because that's where I really needed to be. However, I'm really feeling now like I want to step out of that stuck space. So let's come up with some new and some different words with which to describe our story. There's a wonderful, wonderful Canadian author. Her name is Yvonne, Oswald. Yes, thank you. I should know this. This is a book I recommend to all my students. It's actually required reading. Every word has power. Changing your language to change your life. This book literally changed my life. Or more to the point, I changed my life after I read this book and started to apply all of what she was teaching us in terms of the language that we're using and illustrating how we can use language to either keep ourselves down or we can use language to lift ourselves up. And one of the biggest things that I got from this book, and this was 15 years ago when I found her book, is the power of owning how you feel, how you behave, and the choices that you make. And the easiest, quickest, fastest way to do this is to move into I statements. I am ready. I am ready to become a master manifester. I am feeling this way, whatever that way is. Okay? I am going to. Starting from that place of personal ownership and responsibility for the way in which you are showing up in the world. Okay? Nobody is stopping you from fulfilling your dreams and your desires except for one person. No, not me. I'm not stopping all of you from getting your desires. It's ourselves, right? And for all the reasons that we've already discussed and looked at. And we've looked at them, again, from this place of total compassion for how we have been in the world and in our lives, recognizing what we've come from and knowing that it's all okay, and acknowledging that now we want it to be different. Now we want to really step into why we came here, what our life purpose is, how we want to live it, how we want to do what we love to do. And part of that process is that ownership, those I statements. If you don't get down to the bank to open up that bank account, to put that money in every month, to get yourself to Hawaii next year, the only person who stopped you from doing that is you. And you know what the biggest excuse is that most of us have for not doing these things? There's not enough time. Okay, I know I've said it. Anyone else? Am I the only one in the room who said that? I didn't have time today. I ran out of time. There wasn't enough time. I'm too busy. Okay, all of that is true, except that there is plenty of time. There's plenty of time. It's the choice that you make as to what it is that you're going to do with that time and what the priorities are. What are you going to make the priorities? And again, not from judgment. If today you didn't make it to the bank and you realize that you put all these things in front of you for not going, you could quickly do a check-in as to why it wasn't that important, why you didn't make it the most important thing of your day, and you could do your work around that. Or you could just say, it's okay, I'll do it tomorrow. As long as you make the time. And here's the thing, there is no quick fix for manifesting. There's no quick fix for anything. There is no happy pill. Wish there was, but there really isn't. We have to do the work. So you look to what that work is. You do that work with love in your heart for yourself. You move into the processes that we're talking about, and then you experience the outcome. Right? So far we've looked at identifying what your money wounds are and your stories are, doing some of that core belief work to understand what that core limiting belief is, doing the releasing around it, looking at our language that we're using, and clearing our purpose path so that we can get really clear on what our desires and our goals are. Right now, I would like us to take a bit of a break, because I know that my desire and my goal right now is to have some water. I would encourage all of you to do the same. When we come back from the break, we're going to look at the next 4 steps, moving into mastering manifesting, with more exercises and more fun things to do. You know, it's amazing how easy we can hold on to something, even something as simple as that, and still have a response and a reaction to it decades later. I have no doubt that 30 years from now, if a bunch of my daughter's friends are all together with their kids and us parents come in and do that clap, they're all going to know exactly what it means and what the expectation is, right? And that brings me to expectation. We've got intention on one hand, and we have expectation on the other. We can talk until we're blue in the face about possibilities, but if you don't know what your underlying expectations are, those possibilities are probably going to be pretty challenging to see and to allow to happen, right? What do you expect is going to happen when your life turns out to be the way you always dreamt it would be? Sometimes our fear of success is greater than our fear of failure. Because our fear of failure is very familiar. We know what that looks like and we know what that feels like. And even though it might be uncomfortable, it's familiar. So we find every way possible, unconsciously, to stay in what's familiar. Instead of allowing ourselves to not only imagine, but expect that we are going to have the life we've always wanted to live. And not 10 years from now, but right now. 10 years ago, when I started doing all of this as my work, I had a little office in Fernwood. I had a 1-page website that my husband at the time had created for me. And that was it. No advertising, just word of mouth. But I had the expectation that I could do something with this work that could be meaningful out in the world, could be meaningful to me, and could support me financially. I had an expectation that I would succeed, and I didn't necessarily know how, or even why, or what that was going to look like, but I had an expectation. Somewhere somehow, I knew that it was going to happen. And I started my private practice, gesundheit, energy moving. I started my private practice teaching. So the day I opened my doors and put my shingle out, psychic healer, Psy-Chick healing studio, Megan Edge, that was scary. I started teaching workshops. And my clients became my students, and my students became my clients, and some of them became my friends. And 10 years later, I now have a school of healing arts. I have 2 certification programs. One is a 10-month healer's certification program, and the other is intuitive energy massage, which is the healing modality I've created over the last 10 years of doing my energy work, and put it into a teachable modality that anybody can learn. And it can become the foundation for your own healing practice, or if you already have a healing practice, it can become another service that you offer. In 10 years, I've written and published not just a book, but an entire healing system. And I published it with Balboa Press and Hay House. Now I have an entire line of healing products that I make myself in my kitchen with love. And they each have a story. And there's a book coming out that talks about how to make these and what each of these healing products are. And there's another book called Falling into Being Human, which is the manual for the healer's course. It's 300 pages. This is actually one of the chapters that I'm sharing with you tonight. All of this has happened over the last 10 years. Not like that, and not because I wished it, because I wanted it. And I want it to go even further. The next step is radio. I have a radio show starting. We debut in December. This is exciting. But 10 years ago, if somebody had said to me, this is what it's going to look like in 10 years, I wouldn't have had a clue how I was going to get here. The journey is everything that I'm sharing with you tonight. Everything I'm sharing with you tonight, I've done and continue to do. Because the idea that we can have what we want is often not what we're taught, right? And we're also often taught that if we do achieve what we set out to achieve, it's got to be through hard work. Because nothing is worth earning unless you work hard for it, right? Good Protestant work ethic. And that if something comes easily, then it's a fluke, it's luck, it's a chance, it's a cheat, because things aren't easy. But what if they could be easy? And I don't want to equate easy with lazy, but that is something we do in our culture. Right? These are the kinds of beliefs that I'm talking about that are so ingrained in our psyche that we don't even realize that we're operating with them. What if it could be easy to have what you want to have in your life? Why do we make it difficult? What is that all about anyways? Right? And what I want for my life isn't going to be what you want for your life. And each are equally valid, and whatever journey we take to get there is equally valid. Instead of looking outside of yourself for the answers, I would love it if you would start here in your heart and listen to your heart above all other voices. Because it will always tell you the truth of what you want, what you need, what you can have. It will always tell you the truth of your dreams. And if you can learn to listen to the language of your heart, it becomes much, much easier to know what you want and then to say yes to what you want. Can you feel that? Yeah. So let's come from our hearts. Let's do that instead of coming from our head or coming from our fear. Let's start here. What do you want? Think about that for a moment. What's the first thing that comes into your mind? And love? Okay. That's a beautiful one. What else? Music. Yeah. What else? What do you want? You can say it. It's safe to say what you want. No one's going to judge you. No one's going to laugh at you. What do you want? You want to be more intuitive. Oh, animal, you want to be an animal intuitive. I can totally see you doing that. And a lot of what we're talking about tonight is ancient wisdom. I already said in the first half, you know all this. This is not news to you, the techniques that I'm sharing with you tonight. But what my hope is that in putting them into a system where you can see the steps that are required or necessary to help you go from not having to having, that you can easily put that into play in your life and start to truly receive what you are asking for. So how does abundance show up in your life? This is step number 5. How does abundance show up in your life? What do you think of when I say abundance? What does that mean to you?
Food.
Lots of food, glorious food. Love that song. What else? Abundance. It's a high vibration word, by the way, abundance. Now, you know that old adage, you have to be careful what you ask for? You know, what was that, the Stones song? You might not always get what you want, but you always get what you need. So, in my previous marriage, we had an abundance. Oh, we had an abundance of debt. We had 3-figure abundance of debt. And I'm not talking good debt. I don't mean like my mortgage, right? I don't mean investing in school. I mean consumer debt. Unbelievable how much debt we had. And what we kept saying, though, because we were employing the secret and we were employing the law of attraction, may all the abundance of the universe come to us now. Doesn't that sound wonderful? All the abundance of the universe. Sadly, though, we were in debt and poverty consciousness. Yes. And we couldn't figure out why we kept getting more and more debt when we were asking for all of the abundance of the universe to come to us. However, we weren't clear about what we needed and wanted. We were totally in our money story and operating with our money wounds. We weren't having that conversation. And truly, one of the leading causes of separation and divorce is money, more than any other reason. It's the disconnect that can occur between two people and their money story. And that was part of our story. And when I stepped out of that relationship and had to exist on my own and support myself and my daughters, I had to get really creative with what that was going to look like. And I had to move beyond any fear that I had or any external stories that I had been told about my capacity and ability to earn money and support my family. There's a statistic out there that says a woman who is separated or divorced, a single woman after marriage, that her income will plummet, sometimes up to 70%, and the man's income will go higher. And let's be fair, if the woman was the main breadwinner, then the opposite is true. This is not just a male to female thing. And I was told that. That was handed to me. This is what will happen if you leave. Well, what usually happens when someone tells me what's going to happen is that I go and do the opposite. So I went and did the opposite. And it didn't turn out to be my experience. And what that taught me is that if it doesn't have to be my experience, then it doesn't have to be anybody's experience. These are beliefs. And the reality may be that you've got a low-paying job. The reality may be that you have an illness that you can't work. The reality may be a lot of things, but you can change your reality. You can change it. You can change it by all the ways that we've already talked about. Take everything that I've shared with you this evening and apply it to all the areas of your life. So, abundant thinking. Instead of thinking I couldn't do it, I thought, okay, how can I do it? And I did it. Now, it wasn't overnight and it wasn't necessarily the easiest, but I did ask for it to be easy. One of the ways that I did that was to start working with this idea of abundance from a very clear place of what do I want to be abundant in my life? I want security to be abundant. I want safety to be abundant. I want money to be abundant. Money is not a bad thing. Money is not the root of all evil. That lands squarely on our shoulders. Money itself is just energy. And all you have to do is look around you, especially in our culture, to see abundance. How many blades of grass do you think are in your front lawn? How many different kinds of laundry detergent are on the shelves at Thrifty's? Right? How many choices do you have every day? There is so much abundance. And if you're feeling lack, then please do yourself a favor and go and look for something that is abundant. To remind yourself that there really, truly is enough for everyone. Because if I go into Thrifty's and I choose to buy Arm & Hammer laundry detergent, that does not prevent anybody from buying Downy. Can you see how that works? And honestly, go to a grocery store at the end of the day. So much food gets thrown out because it's not perfect. And we're not going to go into all of that. But it is just to remind ourselves that actually we are not in lack. That externally from us there exists everything that we need. And even if we didn't have a grocery store, if we were back in the days when we were living off the land, there was enough. There was enough on the land for us to take care of ourselves if we treated it properly. And I'm not trying to make the path a utopia, not at all. But it is to remember that we are not actually in lack. So move into that abundant thinking. You can ask yourself every day, what do I have in abundance? In fact, I just read recently that there's nine things that the wealthy do, the wealthy and successful do. And the one that I was so excited to see on there was that they write lists. They write lots and lots of lists. To-do lists, can-do lists, lists about what they've done, lists about what they want to do. And that got me thinking, what kind of a list could we write to help us connect in with abundance and abundance thinking? Why don't you write a list of everything you already have? Call it your have list, right? Because so much of what we list are the things we want to get done or that we want to have. What if you wrote a have list? Or call it your gratitude list. Here are all the things I already have. Remind yourself of what you already have in order to build on it, in order to understand what more you would want or you would need. Moving into that awareness and understanding of abundance. Yeah, there's lots of creative ways that you could write your abundance list. And I love what Tina has shared where she writes, today I am grateful for or how did you say it again? I appreciate the abundance of. Appreciate's a great word. And you use whatever words that work for you to help you connect with what is already available to you, what you have already generated, what you have already manifested. Because here's the other neat thing about abundance. It's happening all the time. And you're doing this manifesting work constantly. You just don't realize necessarily that you're doing it. I need Arm & Hammer. I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to pick up Arm & Hammer. Guess what I just manifested? Arm & Hammer. But it sounds so regular, right? It sounds so ordinary. Well, how can that possibly be manifesting? Well, you said a want, you took an action, you got what you wanted because you took an action. Now, if I had sat in my living room and said, I want Arm & Hammer, and then I did this, and I waited for the Arm & Hammer to show up, it's probably not going to, unless somebody heard me and went and got the Arm & Hammer and put it in my hand. One of the other reasons that things like manifesting can sometimes seem to not work is because there's a step missing. The action step. All right, so let's move into that step. Action is alchemy. Have you ever heard that before? Very wise woman, my business coach actually said that to us. Action is alchemy. The moment that you take action, everything can start to flow. Right? The moment you say yes to that desire, that dream, that vision, it's already starting to happen. The universe is going, all right, she said yes. Let's get things in place so that this can happen for her. Because you're only going to say yes at a very authentic level to the things that you actually need and want. If you say yes to something that is not in alignment with your values, your morals, your beliefs, and your desires, it's not going to flow easily, is it? I mean, how many times have you said yes to something you know you didn't want, and then it just sat there in your solar plexus, and it felt really heavy, and you got a stomach ache or an ulcer? These physical things that happen to our bodies, at least in my belief system, are the result of energetic and emotional yes and no's and experiences. And if we don't get really true and honest with ourselves, and we still keep operating in a yes that isn't authentic, it will eventually show up as disease or injury in our bodies, I believe. And I've seen it in myself and in others. And I know for myself that many decades of saying yes to things I didn't actually want and that were not in my authentic alignment with myself left me very, very sick. Fibromyalgia was my diagnosis. And it was right here for the most part. I'm happy to say I don't have any of the symptoms of fibromyalgia anymore, because I stopped saying yes to the things that were not in my highest good and started saying yes to the things that are in my highest good. And this is one of the ways that you can get really clear on what it is that you desire. You can ask of yourself, is this in my highest good? Is it in my highest good to help my best friend move this weekend? Whoa, no, it's not. Okay, then I'm going to say no. Or, yes, it is. And so I'm going to say yes. Is it in your highest good? And this can also help you get really clear about what these desires and goals are. Are they yours? Or, like I shared about my mother wanting to be a model and then her putting that on me, are they not yours? Maybe they're not. Is it in my highest good? Helps to align you with what is in fact in your highest good. There's an exercise that I want to share with you. I call it the wish, want, create exercise. The power of words is so phenomenal. We've already talked about that a bit this evening, and you all know this. Think about the word wish. I wish I had a pony. I wish I could go to Disneyland. Actually, I don't wish I could go to Disneyland. I wish I could go to Iceland. That's true, I do. Okay, so I wish. But what happens when you wish? Anything? Does anything happen when you wish? Remember being a kid and blowing the dandelion seeds? And you make your wish and you blow it out? Or you blow out your birthday candles? I wish. There's actually a whole lot of magic going on there. That's another workshop. It goes into the shaman workshop. The wish indicates what you believe is impossible. Can you feel that? Not, I wish you a happy birthday. Obviously, you do wish the person a happy birthday. But when you're wishing for yourself, the I wish stops as soon as it is stated, and there is nothing else there. Does somebody have a wish that they would like me to play with for this exercise? Who would like to play with me? Okay, please. Sure, come on up. And you are? Dawn, very nice to meet you. Thank you for coming up.
Happy this tonight. Yeah, that's great.
You're very welcome. Dawn, what do you wish for? What is your wish?
I wish for a book deal.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Do you think it's possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
I do.
Here?
No, here.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's, I know I need to finish writing my book.
Okay.
But and that was part of the path that meditation
Okay.
meditation took us through.
Mm-hmm.
Was all of the things that are in the way.
Ah, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wish that I could have a book deal. Can you say it again for everybody? Say it out to the group.
I wish that I could have a book deal.
Now I would like you to change the word. I want to have a book deal.
I want to have a book deal.
Say it to
I
them.
want to have a book deal.
Can you feel the difference?
I can feel it too.
Can you feel it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Say it again. Really grounded.
I want to have a book deal.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, that's the
But without even that.
way.
But without even going into any of that,
Yeah.
right? We're not talking about butts, because really what a butt is good for is sitting on. That's it. It's really good for sitting on. Beyond that, it's not really useful for you. You want to have a book deal.
Yes.
Okay. The next step is create. Now you can say, how are you going to get your book deal?
So do I ask myself that?
Yeah.
How am I going to get a book deal?
And what are the first things, the first actions that come into your mind?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
Yeah, connect with publishers or connect with people who've been published.
Excellent. How about one more thing? One more action that will get you to that goal. What can you create? Any help? What could she do?
Start sharing
Yeah.
a few chapters. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at all these amazing ideas. Isn't this awesome? This is brainstorming. Brainstorming is great for manifesting. So now it comes back to Dawn, though, because your responsibility for this goal and desire cannot be underestimated. It's all well and good to have lots of great ideas. Are you going to put them into action?
Yes.
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 That's what creates the alchemy.
That's special. Yeah.
So wish, identify the wish. Wishes are fun, they're great. But if it is real for you, make it a want. Feel the difference in that energy. I want. And then how? That's the create. How do I create this? And then take the action. And something that has been brought up, which I think is so beautiful about this whole idea of goal setting and manifesting, we can often get so caught up in the end result that we forget that it doesn't have to be perfect. I know of many authors, myself included, who want what they give out to the world to be in a state of perfection before it is given out. But how much more fun would it be to include people in your journey of your writing?
The suggestion of putting my writing out there scares the daylight out of me.
I hear you.
But
That's typical, yeah.
But it's also really exciting.
Yeah.
And that when you were talking about alchemy, that it feels like that
Yeah,
is the alchemy, is the energy of including other people.
that's right.
It's the magic.
Yeah, it's the magic, because actually we're not meant to do any of this by ourselves. You know that, right? Right? But how many of us, hands up, try to create in isolation? Yeah.
How were you created?
Not in isolation. Well, immaculate, immaculate conception. That's right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Dawn. Thank you. Can we give her? Thank you. There's a really good point that's been raised here, which is fear. And I touched upon it a little bit earlier. Let's go into it a little bit deeper. Okay, we've talked about your desire and your goals and what do you want. What are you afraid of? Hello? Fly. What are you afraid of? What if I can't do it? Yeah. What if it's not true? What if it's not good enough? What if it's not good enough? That comes into something really important, judgment. One of the very first assignments that my students get in the Healers program is to do their work around judgment, self-judgment. And they have an assignment that I give them, which is to put on their calendar a day of non-judgment. And that is a day that they have to see coming towards them so they can check in with what it feels like in the moment. And then when they move into that day of non-judgment, they are advised to move through that day from the point of the observer, to simply observe how often they go into judgment about themselves, about other people, not to judge themselves for going into judgment, but simply to observe. And the response back is really interesting. And what a lot of people experience is, but I'm not judgmental, until they do their day of non-judgment. Right? And that personal self-judgment is the self-talk that takes us out of the game. I'm not good enough. I'm not going to be right. What will people think of me? There's a vulnerability piece that happens here. Because what if? Well, what if you don't get it right? I don't think the world's going to implode. What was one of the ones you had one, sir? Okay, me too. It was really good. It goes back to that question of, is it true? Right? And when it comes to worrying what other people think about you, and this is a huge game stopper for a lot of people. What if you knew that 90% of the time, nobody was thinking about you? That when you're walking down the street, they're not thinking about you. They're not worrying about what clothes you're wearing. They're not worrying about anything about you 90% of the time. The flip side is that 90% of the time we're thinking about ourselves. And we're worrying about what the other person is thinking about us. And they're worrying about we're thinking about them. And we're not actually thinking about them. I call this the 90-10 rule. 90% of the time, no one is thinking about you. They're not judging you. They're not. They've got other things going on. What are they going to make for dinner that night? Billy got a bad grade. They've got a whole lot of stuff going on in here that's all about them. They don't care what you've written, how you've written it, how you've painted it, how you've shown up in it. They might be affected by it if you gave them a chance to see it, if you stepped out of your isolation bubble and said, okay, here. If you just showed up and let people see you, instead of worrying about whether they've noticed you or not, you just show up and let them see you, and you let them make up their mind about you. And it's not personal. It's not about you. And it's none of your business. What if you just let people have their experience of you and your creativity and your dreams and desires and your goals? I know how terrifying that is. It was sure terrifying when I started writing my personal journey and story in The Heart's Journey and talked about what that was like to walk out of that marriage and the pain and the anguish and all of it. And then to realize that I'm just going to put it out here. It's okay if you like it or not. It's all right. I'll be fine. It isn't always going to land for other people. But why would you let that stop you from showing up in the life that you want to live? Right? So just feel that for a moment. It's a bit of an aside. I want to get back to our steps, though. We've sort of moved into step 6, which is asking for what you want and believing you're going to receive it. Believing you're going to receive it. Dawn, do you believe that you are going to receive your want?
Yes, I believe that.
Awesome. Awesome. I can hear some really amazing church music in the background. I believe. But it's true. Ask and ye shall receive. Some of the ancients knew what they were talking about. Now, the flip side of that is better make sure you know what it is you're asking for, because you will get what you ask for. Just be mindful of that. And that's where it's so important to know what's going on internally for you. Because you could be asking up here for something, but down here there's a core limiting belief that's getting in the way of it. And until you know what that core limiting belief is and you do the work with it, you can ask until you're blue in the face. But it won't come to you because you're not in alignment. Expect. Expect it to happen without necessarily knowing how and why. Let go of control. Letting go of control is actually one of the really important ways of mastering manifesting. Do you know that? It's not a control thing. Have the vision. Hold the idea in your head. Think about it. Ask to be guided. Follow the guided action. Experience the result of that. And then say, or as you're doing this, say, this or something better. Because we can limit what's possible for us if we keep a very narrow view of how it has to look, what it's going to be. You don't need to know that. You've got the germ of it, you've got the seed of it. You let that seed grow. You trust, another big piece of manifesting, you trust that you're going to receive it. And not again 10 years from now, but right now. What is something that you believe you're going to achieve, but it isn't going to be for a long time? Anybody have one? Like buy a house or travel the world or buy a house. Okay. Is that ever going to happen? Not in this market. Yeah. 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 The reality is that we're in a realtor market where it is not necessarily the easiest thing to buy a house, right? That's a truth. You look around and you see that it's really not looking very possible for a lot of us, and I include myself in that, to buy a house in the neighborhood that I would like to buy a house in. It wouldn't be financially smart of me to do that. And then there's that one. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of money. But can I share something with you? A year ago, we were rent-evicted. It's a term that Victorians have coined. We were told we were going to be rent-evicted from the home that we'd lived in for 6 years, that my kids had grown up in, there's a whole sob story. But we decided that we were not going to fall into the negative rhetoric which was all around us. And a lot of that rhetoric was coming from very well-meaning people who were simply repeating to us the things that they had observed with their other friends where this had happened. It's really hard to get rental in Victoria. It's near impossible. And the housing prices, and oh my gosh, and my friend ended up in her car in Langford with her 3 kids and her dog, and they lived in Fairfield, and there's this big bubble that starts to build of all the things that get in the way of what you want, right? That purpose path. Well, here's what happened. We got the phone call saying we were being rent-evicted. We drove into our driveway, went into the house, and we're kind of in shock. I'll be honest. We sort of knew it was coming, but we're in shock. Like, oh shoot, now what do we do? And I see our neighbor walking down the road, walking his dog. And I remember that he and his wife go away every winter for 4 or 5 months. And they usually rent out their house, big, huge, beautiful house right next to our little 1940s bungalow. And I go racing out. It's the end of November, in my stocking feet. And I plant myself right in front of him. And I said, hey, are you guys going away this winter? I mean, not that I want you to go away, but are you going away this winter? And he said, yes. I said, well, here's what happened. Would you be interested in renting to us? And he said, yes. 5 minutes. No word of a lie. 5 minutes after we received the news, something showed up. But it didn't just show up and walk by my house. It showed up and I took the action. And from there, we spent 5 months in this beautiful home. Then we were able to move over to our cottage on Main for a month. And somewhere in there, just at the moment when we were really at our wits' end, like we really did go down that rabbit hole of, oh my God, how are we going to do this? I get an email from a friend of mine who says, we have a friend in Fairfield who has a house and they're looking for a family and la 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 la, and here's the story, and we think you'd be a really great fit. You want it? Okay. So we went to go see it, and guess what we did? The first thing we did was look at all the reasons why it wouldn't work. Right? It happens to the best of us. And then as we left, I turned to my husband and said, what if we go back with this question in mind? How can it work? And as soon as we said that, and we went back to the house and we looked at it with that question in mind, all these possibilities showed up as to how we could make this work. And quite frankly, there's not a lot of rentals in Fairfield at the moment. So we would have been really foolish to have walked away from that. But it turns out it was a fit. And that's where we are now. Now, I'm going to tell you this, it wasn't always easy to go through that process of having our things in boxes for 5 months and not knowing where we were going to live. That's a pretty fundamental trauma. That brought up a lot of stuff for me, for sure. But along the way, we decided to trust that we would be looked after and that we would recognize opportunity when it showed up. And we did a whole lot of this work. Because as your life unfolds, opportunity will always show up for you to do this work. Right? You can clear it all, and then a new situation arises, and then it's time to do the work again. So let's move into the last section. We're coming to the end of our time. I will let you know that I have done this presentation before, and we do have a video of it up on our YouTube channel. And this will actually also be on our YouTube channel. None of your faces, it's being filmed me. So if we don't get to the end of it all, there will be ways for you to have all of the 8 steps. But I want to bring us to the very final one, which is this. It is gratitude. It is that word of being gracious. But not only of saying thank you, but of also giving back. There's something that I created called the not the gratitude tree. What did I call it? The manifesting tree. That makes more sense, doesn't it? The manifesting tree goes like this. You have a need, somebody can fill that need. You have a want, somebody can fill that want. You have something somebody else needs, all they have to do is ask you for it. And where I came to this manifesting tree was when I was moving into my new home with my girls, and I had to fill a home. I had to have furniture, I had to have bedding, I had to have plants. I wanted to make it a home for my girls when we first moved in there. And I was able to furnish that entire house for no money, and nicely furnish it as well. And one of the ways that that occurred was because friends and family said, we want to help you, how can we help you? And I chose to say, like this is what I need. Can you help me with it? I was blown away. It was really one of the most incredible experiences of manifesting that I've ever had, where every single need was met and exceeded simply because people wanted to help. See a need, fill a need. Quote from a kids' movie. Anybody remember the name of the movie? Fill a need, see a need. They're robots. I can't remember what the name is. Anyhow, I've always loved that quote. So what I did is I put this out on my email group and said, here's what I need. And people responded and said, well, I have that. And I said, great. Okay, what do you need that I have? And we started this cycle. It's recycling, right? It's giving back and receiving and giving back and receiving and creating an economy based on giving and receiving, need and desire, and the ability to fulfill it. And it has nothing to do with finances. It's not about rich or poor. It's about what do I have that I no longer need, that somebody else needs, and what do I need that somebody else has? And connecting those two needs and desires and wants, the manifesting tree. So as you are moving into gratitude, being gracious and thankful for all the things that you have, you are also finding ways that you can return and give back in order to create that cycle and circle of energy. this is such an amazing topic, and I really want to thank you for the opportunity of coming out tonight and sharing this with you. And I do want to make sure that you receive these 8 steps. So what I would like to invite you to do is to leave me your email address, and I can send out, or I can send it through the group, the 8 steps, just with the highlights of them so that you've got them and you can begin working with them. Yeah. These 8 steps are in great detail in my Confident Healer program. If anybody's interested in talking to me about that, please do. And also in intuitive energy massage. I've got classes coming up and I'm more than happy to talk to you about that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for watching my workshops and my talks. It's my passion to share with you what I know and believe. We have lots of laughter, sometimes tears. We're always learning and growing. I would love to hear from you and stay connected. Enjoy this amazing day.